All right, well, I think it's time to get started. It's 12:02, so let's go ahead and get running. Welcome to the Lunch and Learn for Intiva. This is February 23. I'm going to be your director or host again, Ted Brown, Director of Product Management here at Intiva. And today we're going to be talking about Microsoft applications online versus desktop and how what the differences are. I'm going to go through a couple little tips and tricks of how I like to use Microsoft online applications, cover a little bit of the advantages. And I think really the key part here when I'm trying to analyze it all is the advantage I see the most is how can organizations save cost with their licensing. And I do think taking a strong look at what you can utilize for online applications versus the more expensive licensing, which is going to utilize the desktop applications, can bring to your organization. And the key part about this, though, is understanding the limitations that you have when utilizing online applications. So I want to highlight the key differences here with web apps, as well as going into the Word, Excel, and PowerPoint of what you will not have available to you if you start utilizing the online version within Microsoft 365. Like other previous webinars on Lunch and Learns, please use the Q&A section for any and all questions, and I'll go ahead and answer the questions at the end of this presentation. I also happy to answer any questions that might be pertaining to any past webinars or even Lunch and Learns I've done from the past. So anything at all, pop in the Q&A section. I'll answer it at the end of this Lunch and Learn. Okay, let's kick it off. I'm going to go through a little bit of kind of a slide deck as well as bringing over some real life examples. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth. Unlike the last one, which was, I think, had a lot more demos, this is going to be a little bit more PowerPoint driven, especially when we get into the differences, because I want to make sure to highlight each one of them and have them listed out. So we kind of go back and forth. So as far as utilizing your Microsoft web applications and kind of utilizing the benefits of utilizing what's available to you on the basic license, you just go to microsoftoffice.com and you have available to you all the applications. Let me just slide over to my desktop here. So what you're seeing right here is the Microsoft homepage that will contain easy access to all your web applications. Now, web applications are going to be available to you on almost all Microsoft SKUs that are available in the 365 suite. It's not available if you're utilizing the add-on SKUs, such as like Microsoft Exchange Plan 1, Plan 2, Azure Plan 1 and 2, or maybe like the Enterprise Mobility Suite. The web application is going to be into those basic SKUs or the advanced enterprise SKUs. So the Microsoft Business Basic, the Business Standard, the Business Premium, your E3, your E1s, your E5s will all have the Microsoft App Suite available to you online here. So it's pretty much, if you guys are using 365, typically you have this available to you. If you have the installed applications, you might not actually go and utilize the applications unless somebody shares a file with you, and you might open up online edition right there. So people might not know they have it available to you, but if you go to the www.office.com, it'll bring you to what this is kind of like the homepage. I almost think this is like the desktop of utilizing the web applications. So within this desktop feature, you have the capability of customizing this to make sure that it meets your needs. So again, like I said, your desktop, you can make sure you have different things placed in different organizations that meet your workday flow. So down here at the bottom, you have your quick access that actually goes into some of the recently open files that you worked on. And the neat part about this is with recently open files, it doesn't necessarily mean it's recently open within a online edition of the applications on 365. These right here are applications I actually opened up on my desktop version. So just because you open up on a desktop versus web app, it all keeps in together here, recently open files, so you can kind of go back and forth. So this is kind of a nice like overlaying screen here that shows overall usage across all the applications that you're utilizing within the 365 suite. The other key part here, and I kind of dabbled in this as well last Lunch and Learn, is the shared files. So right here at the homepage, you have the shared location, which gets into the shared files that have been sent to you through OneDrive or Team sites. Now, one thing, I love Teams, I love ShareDrive, I love OneDrive, but the one thing that I find a little bit cumbersome is if someone shares a team link with you or shares a OneDrive link with you, where does it end up afterwards? So how do you know it's shared? Where I go, like in a regular shared drive infrastructure, you're pretty much used to dropping a file into the HR folder or into the product folder. You kind of know where to go. But when someone shares something through their OneDrive, it has a different kind of hierarchy of how it looks. So if you're curious if anyone shares something with you, how go back and find it, utilize this shared location right here and come back in and take a look at what has been shared to you throughout the organization. And the other piece I want to highlight is the favorites folder. I almost think of this favorite folder for me as like my personal desktop. So I know on my desktop, I keep different files that I want to look at on a consistent basis. And they always know where they are. They can, have access to them whenever. So the favorite folder, I almost think of that as my desktop files I want to put there in the location. So within this home page, I can actually set favorite files that will pop up here that I want to look at on a continuous basis. And you can easily flag favorites. So you just come down to either a file you've been working on before, click on the options button right here and select add to favorites. So I can click add to favorites, and boom, it will pop up right here as now being a favorite action I want to have. And you can unfavorite it too if you wanted to, and come back in unfavorite. So very customizable, and make sure that it makes sense for you in your workflow. Now, back to what the lunch and learners at hand is the applications available to you. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see that there are some applications available to you. You got your Outlook, your Teams, your Word, Excel. But if you click on the 9 button up here, the app launcher, it brings up the applications that are available to you that you have signed up through your subscription. Now, I might have a couple in here that you might not have access to because I do have a Visio license. So if you don't have a Visio, you wouldn't see Visio here. But these are the web applications that I have specified that I want to see almost in my quick app launcher. What I mean by quick app launcher is I can click on the all applications here, and it'll give me a list of all the apps that I have available. You can see them right here. So let's just say, hey, I want to make sure Whiteboard is up there. I can select the options button next to Whiteboard and say pin to launcher. And now when I go back up here, you can see that here I have the Whiteboard available to me. Maybe I don't want to see it. It's not necessary. I can unpin it. So again, you can kind of customize the look and feel of this app launcher to make sure it makes sense for you, what you want to use on a daily basis. Now, as far as the applications you're particularly probably going to use when the Office suite is going to be your Outlook, your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneDrive, those typical applications. And I do feel if I click on my Outlook here that there is actually product parity between the online edition and the edition that you have on your desktop. Now, when I take a look at this thing, there's a lot of different things in here that we kind of can go over, but I want to kind of highlight that this does look very similar to my installed version. You can see here, here's my installed version right here where I've got overlaid on top of the online edition. So you can see here, I got my mail icon, the calendar icon, the people. The one thing it is missing on this list right here is easy access to my OneDrive for Business, which I can do through on the web edition of the Microsoft Outlook suite. But on here, I can see here I have Mimecast, which is an additional add-on, and I don't have the add-on within the online edition because it's not as easy to put add-ons into the online edition. There it has capacity to actually install add-ons into it through the Microsoft 365 tenancy and kind of distribute it down there if it is capable from the solution being installed onto the 365 suite. So there are some add-ins you can kind of push through, but if it is a desktop installed add-in, it will not appear on your online edition because it is in the cloud. So you can see here, this looks very similar. In fact, I utilize the online edition of Outlook because it's fairly simple to use, very similar. The one thing I find it can't do is it doesn't do a great job of mail merging. So if you do a lot of mail merging, this is probably not the best bet for you. And once you get in here, you can actually go back and you have access to all your other files as well. You have your Excel. Now I'm not going to have to open up each one and kind of go through here's how you do different things, but I just want to flag that it does look similar when I open up Excel on my desktop and over. Looks very similar. So if you're not utilizing an online application, I do recommend seeing if it makes sense for you as an organization, because there are a lot of similarities and doesn't really slow down workflow because I'm opening up files the same way. It has the same look once you launch it within the portal. So you have the capability to get to the same information that you utilize on your desktop applications. The neat part, again, I said before, is kind of it does link up. So you can see here, it says recommended. I got recommended here. These are the same files I've been working on. Book 3, book 1. I'm sure if I come across here, it'll say book 1 right there. So it's all linked together and synchronized. So whatever I'm working on my desktop application, it does correlate over to my online application. It's all linked together. So it does a great job of making sure that wherever you're working, you have the same functionalities almost that you have from one platform to the next. Now that kind of gave me an overlook of how to access the files, there's one thing that I think is neat to utilize, and is utilizing what's called progressive web applications. So progressive web applications, what this does is actually creates more of a desktop type or an installation type feel to the application they're utilizing through the web. And you actually can create desktop icons, your shortcut links. You can have it start launch at startup for whatever applications you want to set up as a progressive web app application. And it's pretty easy to do. So for this, let me come back across. I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, I want to make a progressive web application for my Outlook. So I'm going to jump up into Outlook right here, open this up. And then the top button here, I'm going to click on the options settings at the top, applications, and go to install. I'm going to go ahead and install the PWA application. And it'll go ahead and come up with here with some options in a second. What do I want to do with this application I'm installing from Progressive Web Applications? Do I want to pin it to my taskbar? And when it says pin to taskbar, it's pinned to taskbar of the computer I'm on at that time, not the task tray that I showed you guys before, the app tray. This is actually on my physical computer. I can pin to my start button. I can also create a desktop shortcut. And if I wanted to, I can already have this set to automatically start when the device logs in. So when I boot up my computer in the day, I can have this progressive web app of Outlook launch automatically, just like you potentially do with other desktop applications that you install on your computer. I'm not going to have it launch it start up. I like controlling what starts up on my computer. So I'm just going to go ahead and select these three options and click apply. Now, what I didn't highlight down here, here's my task button, task tray at the bottom here. You can see here, it actually put one already down here in my task tray. I have my Outlook right here, which is an installed version. And here's the one I have on my progressive web app. So for people taking advantage of utilizing just online applications, you can make this look like you actually have installed applications and have the quick launch capability that you have for desktop install applications. So let me go ahead and close this out. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this button, and it's going to open this up. And you can see here, it's opening it up. It takes away all the extra features you typically see within a Internet Explorer type page or web page. I don't have the web browser address. I don't have my file and folders up here or file access and settings of the actual browser I'm using in time. It encapsulates just the application that you're wanting to utilize that is online. So this really makes it look like it's an installed application. And it doesn't have to stop here. You can actually do this with the Word application, your Excel application, and have different settings per each one. So I can come into Excel. In Excel, click on the button up here, click on your apps. I want to install and install. And again, it'll ask me what I want to do. You can see here down, it already put one right there for me. Maybe if I don't want to have it as a taskbar, I can take it off, or I want it pinned to start, or I can create a desktop application, allow. Go ahead and do that. And then if I minimize out of all my stuff, I should have new applications right here. Here's my Outlook application. My Excel application pops right up, and off I go. So I have my Word application I can do as well. Open new document, pin this, applications again, install, and go ahead and go through there. So you can actually create multiple different web applications. It doesn't have to just be for Outlook 365. But I do for Office 365, but I do find this helpful if you're utilizing this online application of being able to make it look more like a desktop installation and make it easier for end users. So you have the capacity to actually make it set up just like you would typically do on a desktop installed application. It almost looks exactly the same and operates the same. The other feature I want to highlight here, especially when utilizing Edge, is the task tray over here, the side browser. So the side browser in Edge has some tie-ins to 365 you can easily utilize. Now, it might not make sense to you, but I just want to make sure that you know this option. So on the right side of Edge over here, you can have some applications installed. I already have Outlook right here. So I can click on Outlook. And what this will do is actually bring into a sliver of the screen of what I currently have in my Outlook. So I can actually run Outlook on the side as I do different functionalities. So if you have multiple screens going on, you can actually use this of actually kind of taking care of your Outlook capability while maybe you're working on Excel at the same time. So it does a nice little job of kind of splitting the screen, and you can kind of go back and forth. Typically you would do with a single monitor, but having multiple screens going on at the same time, but all happening from the Edge browser. Worth taking a look at to see if it makes sense to you and make it into your workflow. If not, you can easily close it out, exit out, and it's gone. So want to make sure that you knew that was available to you through Edge. So those are kind of some of the key aspects when utilizing online applications to make it easier for you to use. But I want to think about why would I take advantage of this as an organization? And for me, the reason why I take advantage of that organization would be PowerPoint. is going to be saving money. Really, when I take advantage of this is like the amount of money you can save as an organization can be pretty drastic when taking a look at what the bottom line figures are when utilizing SKUs within Microsoft 365 that only contain the online applications versus the installed applications. For instance, let's just say if you're an organization less than 300 users, you're going to be utilizing the small to medium-sized business SKUs, such as Business Basic. So Business Basic is the lowest level SKU that will contain the Microsoft web applications, as well as Exchange, your SharePoint, your Teams, pretty much the whole thing, except for installed applications on your desktop. This costs you $6 per user per month. Now, if you're taking a look at having installed applications, you'll be looking at going to the business standard, which is $12.50. So that's a $6.50 per user per month savings you can have as an organization. Now, as I highlighted before, this doesn't have to be organization as a whole. Maybe there's people in your departments or maybe a subset of your departments that can take advantage of online applications, and you can just go ahead and sign them up for the Business Basic versus some people that need to have the installed applications. So it can just be kind of a mix and match for you. But let's take this, for example, a company of 50 that was going to save the $6.50 per month per person. That'd be about a $4,000 saving per year to go down the path of utilizing the online applications. Now, I'm going to highlight some limitations that they're going to be going that direction, but they are creating more parity across the installed version and the online version day after day, month after month, and it's actually coming to a crossroads soon that is going to be probably right on par with your installed applications. In fact, most organizations hiring younger employees are used to utilizing SaaS-based applications. I know my family, my kids, all they're used to is utilizing the online editions of all these applications, and they come to the workforce and that's all they know, and that's all they potentially want to use and can get by with it. It's kind of me. I'm definitely a desktop installed application kind of guy, so I'm kind of making that transition over to it on certain aspects, utilizing the Office suite, especially that it kind of is a longer a longer road to get me over that direction. But I think as organizations, we're going to have to start looking at embracing this, because I do think there is going to be a crossing point where it makes sense as an organization looking at this fully and taking advantage of the cost savings, because you don't have to have them installed on a computer to utilize the same functionality. And for instance, kind of going back to actually saving money, is I did an example of less than 300 users. Let's take a company that has more than 300 users. So if you're utilizing more than 300 users, you have to use enterprise licensing, which is more expensive. So E1 would be the SKU you would look to use that has the online applications, and this costs you $10 per user per month. You can look at going to E3, which would include the installed applications, which is $23 per month. But you might say, hey, Ted, I can also do the apps for business with E1. Very, very absolutely. The apps for business can do the installed applications, and you have the E1 for all the other functionality in 365. And that costs you $8.30. But $8.30 times 300 times 12 is going to give you a difference of $30,000 per year. So it does kind of really make you kind of open your eyes, go, wow, $30,000 per year is a drastic number I can save as an organization on Microsoft licensing, especially when all the other licensings are increasing in cost. So it might be kind of an advantage. Just take a look at this to see if it makes sense going forward. So for me, that's the big positive of why you want to go down this path, is definitely because of a cost savings you can have as an organization. So now, while I laid out the cost savings, I want to make sure that people are armed with the limitations out there when going down this path. So when I take a look at the limitations, sorry about that. Oh, let's get back over there. When I take a look at the limitations of going down this path, online applications, the key part is online applications require internet connectivity. So if you're a company that doesn't have great internet connectivity, or don't have internet connectivity at certain places, online applications, not for you at this time. But for the most people, I do think internet connectivity is available to you wherever you go. But the next key aspect is you need to make sure that your files and that you'll be utilizing are going to be mostly in your OneDrive and SharePoint. So the people that have embraced utilizing all the functionality and features over 365 have gone down to the OneDrive, having their desktops and their documents already moved over to OneDrive, and SharePoint for all their shared applications for different shared document repositories for different departments, almost like you have your shared drives, your S drives, your H drives in the past, or even team sites. So you're going to be utilizing files that are located in those locations because it's easy to access by the online applications. The other key part here is there are varying size limits as far as what can be modified and viewed within online applications. For instance, Excel Online can only handle 24 megabyte files for viewing and for editing. So if you have a file that's above the 24 gigabyte, it will not be able to be opened in the online edition. So if you're utilizing large files, online edition's not for you. Similar for PowerPoint, you can't edit any files that are larger than 300 megabytes. And for Word Online, you can't edit for any documents that are above 100 megabytes. So definitely key aspects in there. The other piece here, the piece that hit here for me fully moving over to it would be this next one, limiting file support in editing mode. Example, CSV files. So I wouldn't be able to modify CSV files and manipulate them within online edition of Excel, which for me, I do a lot of stuff with CSV files. I get exports from businesses for different reasons coming in CSV, and I wouldn't be able to actually modify. You actually get an error trying to access it or saying, hey, you need to upload it to a different file type. And I'll kind of give you an example of that. So I'm going to come to my OneDrive, go to my demo folder, and here I have a CSV file. So it is a CSV file. This is located in OneDrive. These all can be synced to OneDrive and Teams and SharePoint. So it's just because the file type is not something it modify within the applications of online editions doesn't mean it can't save into OneDrive, SharePoint. So let's make sure that's clear. So here it is. I'm going to click on it, and it's going to pop up that is probably, I can view it. I just can't modify it. So I can see here and go ahead viewing. I want to go ahead and click edit. And it's going to tell me, sorry, you can't edit this file because it's not in the correct format. I can convert this to a file that's editable, which can convert it to is the XLSX mode. And then I can actually edit it, but it takes it out of the CSV functionality. As you can see here, it brought it right here. I'll create another one, XLSX. There's other file types it can't handle. Typically, they're going to be the older editions of the file types. So for example, for Excel, you want to be able to open up the XLS files. It needs to be XLSX files. The same thing with the Word docs, the .doc, now it needs to be .docx. So any of those old file types, it won't be able to open. So I want to make sure people know that aspect of it. The other key part here is macros. So if you like to utilize macros, they can't run, and you also can't modify the macro within online editions. You have to have the desktop installed applications. All right, so that kind of gives the overall feature limitations. So I'm kind of run through these limitations with Word Online. So I'm going to probably just highlight a couple key ones here. So if you like to use rulers and grid lines, that is not possible in online edition. If you take advantage of advanced document elements like auto text, cover pages, and table of contents, online edition is not going to be for you as well. Number 4 here is kind of a biggie for some people. It doesn't have advanced data integration features like mail merge through Excel spreadsheets. Now, I do know that this one is being worked on in the back end. So I do hope to see a change coming through on future editions of online applications of having this be built in there. But for right now, if you do mail merges, online edition is not for you. It doesn't allow for advanced proofing tools such as custom dictionaries. So if you have a customized dictionary you like to actually put into certain words, it won't be able to utilize that within the online edition. You also don't have the capability of doing rich media features like adding in PowerPoint videos or online videos. And if you like to use the inserting shapes, charts, and others, it doesn't have advanced art features like you have on the installed version. So those are kind of the big highlights I like to say for the Word Online for the differences. Now we get into limitations with Excel Online. There's a big one in here, which I'm surprised about, and I had to test it out to actually believe it wasn't possible. But the first one is you can't redo, it doesn't give you recommendations for charts and smart formatting. So I don't know if you've actually opened up trying to say, here's the information I'm trying to present. It will give you kind of an idea of what you're trying to present and recommend a chart. It won't do that for you on the online version. It can't do any animations for adapting new data. And also, if you're a Power Pivot person, I love pivot tables, and I couldn't live without this aspect. It will do a regular pivot table, but if you want to do advanced analytics through Power Pivot, which is available to you on the Excel version, that will not be available to you on the online version. So if you like to do Power Pivot tables, make sure to utilize the desktop installed version. The other one in here is number 6 that I'm going to put here is no find and replace feature. I was a little actually surprised when I was doing the research on this, doesn't have the capability of doing find and replace. I took a look at that one. That is on a roadmap for getting fixed as well. But for right now, if you use the find and replace feature, which I use all the time in Excel, online edition is not for you. Also, if you use the what if analyst tool, which is a very neat tool, if you guys haven't utilized it, I recommend checking it out. It is not available to you in the online edition of Excel. Lastly, we have the limitations on PowerPoint. Now, I haven't done a lot of stuff on online Outlook because I really say it's got really feature parity between the online edition and the installed edition. So that's something I would say, hey, you can take a look at pretty easily, see if you want to move that direction. But the three main things I want to highlight was the Word, the Excel, and the PowerPoint Online. Now, PowerPoint Online, there is a couple ones in here that I think are important to know. You have limited animation and transitions. So if you are a power person guru that likes to make these amazing presentations, go back and forth and have animation, the online edition is not quite for you yet. You don't have the ability to modify themes. So if you actually have a theme that you have in your PowerPoint presentations that you need to actually manipulate, you're going to have to do that on the desktop installed version versus the online edition. You don't have the ability to insert audio and video into your PowerPoint presentations other than YouTube. So it can actually pipe things in from YouTube, but it can't take anything else outside of that platform for utilizing the audio and video being put in there. There's no integration of Excel for charts, and you don't have the ability for going into presentation mode with PowerPoint Online, which I find actually very advantage. I'm not sure if people taken done a lot of PowerPoint presentations where you have the one side you're looking at that has your notes, and you have the presentation you're putting up for everyone else. I find that very key when giving these lunch and learns. So not having that ability for me would be kind of a non-starter for going to the PowerPoint Online. And the other one here at the last of it is not the ability, not to be able to insert word art and charts. So again, it doesn't quite have a lot of the full features that the installed version has. So I want to make sure you're kind of armed with these decisions that you need to make as an organization. If I want to take advantage of that $30,000 savings, here are the limitations that are here today that I don't have the ability to utilize that I can take advantage of on the desktop applications. But like I said, there are departments that might not need to have all those that will be limited because of those differences between the online edition and the installed applications. So I do think as an organization, it is worth taking a look at and checking out to see if it makes sense now. And if not now, next year or the year or the year after, because they are building in these features and adding to it to make more parity between the two applications. And like I said, I do think there's going to be a crossing point where people are going to start utilizing the online editions more than the installed editions as they go through and correct these limitations. And I think that's all we have for today for going through the online edition of applications for Microsoft 365 versus the desktop applications. So I'll go ahead and open this up to see if there's any questions out there. It looks like there's a couple already. So let me go ahead and take a look and get these answered here. All right. All right, so I got a question here. Can you show again how to make web apps appear as they on the desk as they do on desktops from start to finish? Absolutely, I can definitely do that. So let's go ahead and take, for instance, I don't think I did the PowerPoint. So let's go ahead and take advantage of going to PowerPoint. So I'm gonna click on PowerPoint right here, and you can go ahead and say start a blank presentation. So I want to have it come up to this kind of a PowerPoint application right here. I'm going to click on the buttons at the top, the settings, click on apps, and click on install this site as an application. You can see here I have the other ones in here. So I'm going to click on this, go ahead and call this PowerPoint, and click install. And it will go ahead and soon ask me some questions. I'm going to go ahead and choose all three because I don't want this to start at desktop, start at login. Click allow. And now I have the ability to open up PowerPoint. Like I did as a desktop application. I can come in here and file, have different, maybe open up a different one, maybe go to lunch and learn I'm doing right now, close this out, same options I have. So you can see here, this makes it look like an actual installed application instead of being in the web portal, which would look something like this, where I have the URL at the top, the other tabs. So I do find that if you're going to utilize web applications, definitely go down the path of utilizing the progressive web apps. And like I said, this is not just limited to just Microsoft 365. You can take advantage of this with any different types of site if you want to actually just encapsulate it as it looks like a standalone application. So give it a try, see if it makes sense. All right, next question. Can you talk to any issues with Microsoft 365 users who are constantly transitioning between online and offline? Any sync issues with files that are hosted locally versus online? I utilize this continuously. So I actually find that there's very little issues these days with going versus offline versus online. And I did cover this a little bit in last Lunch and Learn we did in January. I think I might have closed down some of my applications so I don't get alerts. Let's see here. All right, I got a good example here. All right, so when you're offline, so you don't have access to your applications, you still can access certain files and folders that are in your Office 365, OneDrive, Team Sites, or SharePoint, but you have to think ahead of time if you want to use them. So I'm going to go on travel soon. We're going on an airplane, and I don't want to potentially pay for the Wi-Fi, or maybe not be that good, or hey, it's just not available to me at the time because it wasn't working or spotty. So I'm going to click on my folder here and bring this up. I'm going to come into, give an example. I'm going to come into my OneDrive. I'm going to go to this demo folder. I want to make sure when I'm on vacation that I have access to this demo folder, no matter what, if I'm online or offline. So you can see here on the right side, you get status of this folder. So you can see here, this test1, test, and test CSV have a icon here of a cloud. That means that this file itself is not installed on my computer. I have a kind of a shortcut to it. The file itself is out in 365 cloud. I can right click on this file if I wanted to, or the whole folder, and say always keep on this device. Like I said, and come back to the folder above it, right click on the folder itself, and I want to say always keep on this device. And what's going to happen here, you can see that instantly change the status to a circle. Now it's a checkbox. I believe it's green. I don't see colors too well, so I believe it's a green checkbox. And click on the demo here. I can probably see, yes, all the rest of them are checked. So if I happen to go offline right now, these files would be available to me right then and there. So I can unplug my network, turn off my Wi-Fi, go on an airplane, and work on this test document right here. And I can change it up, pop up, test, hello. And when I came back to work or came back to any place that had internet connectivity, once this turned on, what would happen here is this OneDrive would actually sync it back up. I have a couple issues here. I can kind of get into that in a second, but it would actually go through, and you can see here, it already did it. It says upload it. So upload it 3 seconds ago. And let's just say if you didn't have internet connectivity for a while, you might have a whole bunch of files you had accessed and worked on. Once you connect it back in, right here, it would all of a sudden say upload it to the folder location. So it'd be right there. So I find it very easy to go back through online and offline mode. The key part, though, is in kind of correlating back to this webinar or the Lunch and Learn, is if you couldn't utilize online applications in a offline type mode. So I do recommend, if you want to utilize this in an offline mode, desktop installed applications are the way to go. I hope I answered your question there. If not, definitely ping me back again. Hopefully happy to get into more details if necessary. I have another question here. Does the entire team need to be on one version? No, absolutely not. You can have multiple different versions out here as far as being online mode, being online applications versus desktop installed applications. For instance, you can have maybe your accounting department needs to take care of all the different functionalities and can't be limited. So you have 5 people in your accounting department. Those could all utilize business standard. But say you have administrations that don't need to have that functionality. You have 10 people in administrations. Those 10 people can utilize the business basic. There'll be no difference really between the two, except for one has the ability to install applications and the other department does not. Now you have a $6.50 for those 10 people in an administration department that you can take advantage of. And then as maybe some limitations get removed, maybe then the accounting department can move over to utilizing the online edition of applications instead of the full desktop. So I hope you answered that question If I did not, please let me know. I have another question here about fonts. So yes, the fonts are going to be whatever is available to you within the 365 organization. So it will not have the capability going to other font locations to pull those in. So if you take advantage of utilizing certain font functionality, the desktop one is definitely the way to go for you at the moment in time. Great questions. Anything else? I think that might be it here. Well, thank you again, everybody, for attending the February Lunch and Learn, going along the lines of what makes sense for online applications versus desktop installed applications. I hope you found this valuable and look forward to talk about next month, which I believe we're going to be talking about Microsoft Defender for Office 365 and how you can utilize that within your business if you're not today. Great. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful day and I look forward to talking to you next month. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.